Hi, this is Mary, your holistic recovery coach, sharing resources for healing, recovery, and personal growth. Today, I'd like to talk about a recovery concept called HALT. HALT is an acronym that stands for hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Now, this is a concept that, again, is used in addiction recovery usually, but I will say that if you're tuning in and you are not recovering from an addiction, this could be beneficial for anyone as a tool to utilize when you're just feeling off for some reason and you don't know what's wrong. Perhaps you are not as focused or productive as you'd like to be, something just feels uncomfortable, you're not feeling yourself or in the flow. Okay. If you're in recovery from addiction, if you're in early recovery, this might be a newer concept for you and it can be super helpful. So let's say you find yourself suddenly thinking about picking up a drink or a drug or just romanticizing the idea of it or whatever you were addicted to. That's a time when you want to halt, stop, right? Pause and consider what might be making you uncomfortable or not feeling quite right. And so that's where the acronym HALT comes in. Are you hungry? Are you angry? Are you lonely? Are you tired? And you very well may be any combination of those. And the solution is pretty simple, right? Simply put, very simply put, if you're hungry, eat something. If you're angry, address your anger. If you're lonely, connect with someone. If you're tired, get some rest. Pretty simple, right? But those four elements, or any combination of them at any given time, could be interfering with your sense of well-being. And so let's look at them each in a little bit more in depth. And as always, I'll take a holistic perspective on the topic. So the first letter being H, hunger, hungry. Hunger is super important in this equation. So if you are hungry and don't realize it, and you wait too long to eat, what happens is you become in a state what they call low blood sugar. Okay, so we have blood sugar levels that are constantly in flux, fluctuating, and where we want them to be is in kind of a nice even flow, nice even stream. But often based on our eating habits, also in early recovery, you could have blood sugar difficulties just as part of the physiological recovery process. One of the consequences for using drugs or alcohol, they definitely impact your blood sugar. So you could have fluctuating blood sugar that instead of being nice and even flow, it could spike and crash, and spike and crash. And what happens is that when it spikes, you could be anxious, jittery, and then when it crashes, you could be sluggish, tired, almost even depressed, craving more unhealthy foods, craving perhaps your drug of choice. And so that's definitely an area we want to stay out of, right, in recovery. So how do you address that? Well, from a holistic perspective, you don't want to wait till you're hungry to eat. If you take a proactive approach, something that you can do that's very simple is be more mindful about eating more frequently. So when you hear, if you've ever heard the tip to eat small meals throughout the day, that's basically a blood sugar approach to eating. And when we keep our blood sugar levels balanced, that's when we have improved mood, better and sustained energy, better focus, and feel calmer, maybe more productive, and you're less likely to crave unhealthy things. So it makes sense that blood sugar is a huge component. Blood sugar is a huge element in terms of health in general, health and well-being. I recently recorded another video with a colleague of mine who is a nutritionist, and I know that we covered this, so I'll find that video and I'll post a link in the description below, as well as I always post links to any resources or information that I may mention or discuss in these videos. Always be sure to click on the more info or the description below the video to access anything else that I'll provide more info for you. Okay, so getting back to the H in HALT. So that one is so important, right? So, and the other reason is that sometimes if you address the hunger piece, you also may address the anger piece, because if you had both going on, right? Have you ever heard of the expression hangry? um, it sounds silly, but there's a reason that people made up that word, that slang, for when you're low blood sugar and you're irritable. So, because being low blood sugar can gravely affect our mood, there's a good chance that you can become angry as a result of being hungry, waiting too long to eat, or eating the wrong types of foods. And again, creating those spikes and crashes in your blood sugar. So, to put it simply, again, what you want to do, especially in early recovery, is eat even more frequently than it might seem intuitively correct. Okay, so when you were using, you probably skipped meals a lot of the time, or replaced them with alcohol or other things. And so now you want to start to develop healthier habits. And one of those things that you can do is try to get a good source of protein at each eating opportunity, whether you're having a small meal or a snack. And fiber is important. So you want to get fiber as well, and that has a healthy impact on our blood sugars, helping stabilize our blood sugar. And then in terms of carbohydrates, carbs get a bad name. There are high glycemic carbohydrates, glycemic index having to do with blood sugar levels, how a food impacts our blood sugar. So everything that we eat impacts our blood sugar in some manner, and we want it to have a healthy effect on our blood sugar. When we eat high glycemic foods, that tends to spike our blood sugar, and we don't want to do that. So that would be candy, sugar, are the obvious things, but sometimes there's things like even white bread, pasta, white rice. These types of things can also spike our blood sugar. You can look that up online and look up glycemic foods, high glycemic, low glycemic, and the glycemic index for more info on that. But the lower glycemic carbohydrates are a great source of energy, and they're slower to digest. They have a slow kind of impact on your blood sugar, a steady impact, so that's better. And some examples of that would be sweet potatoes are slow burning carb, they're low glycemic, lower glycemic. If you are a bread person, you don't have to scratch all bread. You should go for what they call whole sprouted grain bread. You can find that in most grocery stores these days, whole sprouted grain, instead of the ground down wheat flour. So you don't want to see flour as an ingredient. You want to see whole sprouted wheat, whole sprouted whatever type of grain. And steel cut oats. Oatmeal is great. Steel oats are the best in terms of on your blood sugar impact. So anyway, there's just a few examples. Quinoa is another lower glycemic grain. So when you're eating these things, and of course fruits and vegetables, to get the nutrients and replace the micronutrients that you probably were depleting your system of for a long time when you were using, and if you are recovering from addiction. Vegetables are also high in fiber, and fruits, especially if you're in very early recovery, I'm going to say that you probably want to eat or at least be snacking on something every couple hours. Some people even say every hour and a half, because chances are your blood sugar is really in a state where it needs to be reset and kind of retrained, if you will. And the best thing that you can do is to start to eat healthier foods every couple hours. Handful of raw nuts and some fruit, because you're going to be craving sugar, chances are, especially if you're newly recovering from alcoholism. Because alcohol has such an impact on our blood sugar. That's why you have sugar cravings. But the fruit sugar is better for you because it's packed with antioxidants and phytonutrients and different things that can actually help rebuild your system and help you feel better, faster. So we're all about feeling better faster, right? But in a healthy way now. So I think that wraps up the hunger piece. For those of you who aren't in early recovery, eating something every 3 to 4 hours. Everyone's a little bit different, so you'll get to know your system. Just be mindful about how you're feeling, and that's a good indication of how you need to space out your meals. So let's now talk about the A in HALT, which is anger. So let's see, how do you address anger in a holistic manner or just in a healthy manner? So in the past, you probably were prone to addressing anger, maybe not in the healthiest manners. And now we want to do this differently. So again, if you're feeling uncomfortable and you pause, if you've already taken care of the hunger and you continue to feel angry, then now we need to address the anger. Of course, there's many ways that you can address that. Um, one of the things is, of course, it's a feeling, it's emotion, and you can journal about it. You can write down what you're angry about, get some of that out right away if you're alone. And you can also, of course, talk to someone. That's always a healthy way to process out the emotions, right? And talk about your anger and let people know what you're angry about. So whether it's you call a friend, talk to a friend, therapist, if you're in a 12-step program, you can talk to a sponsor or another friend in the program, but get those feelings out somehow. And then of course, if you have sometimes you have the anger and the loneliness going on at the same time, and you want to address the anger by talking to someone. And so you need to connect with someone anyway. And that's a good way to start to address the loneliness piece and the anger piece. The last thing you want to do is be isolated and angry. Then you're definitely vulnerable to making unhealthy decisions that could be life-threatening, frankly, if you're dealing with addiction recovery. The other piece with anger, some people might, if you're a praying person, prayer can be a good initial intervention with anger, right? You realize that you're feeling off, go through Halt. You say, oh, you know what? It's anger. The first thing you could do is use prayer to kind of interrupt that thought process of where you're stuck in that emotion, and then go on to one of these other things that I'm mentioning. So journaling, talking to someone, and the best holistic tool that I know of to address anger, or really any negative emotion, but anger in particular, when it comes up, is a technique called EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. Some people call it tapping casually because it involves tapping on specific meridian points in the body. And it acts kind of like an emotional acupressure, but that you apply on yourself. So you'd be gently tapping on specific points that help calm down your nervous system and your limbic system and help you process that anger much more rapidly and in a more safe manner. So I've done at least one other video about that topic, so I'll link to that below, and I've written articles on it. So I highly recommend that tool to aid in your recovery process and for anyone. So emotional freedom technique, look in the description below. And that brings us to the L in HALT, lonely. So if you are lonely, it's a little bit obvious, right? But so loneliness is different than feeling like you are alone, meaning like you're different than. I did another video recently. I can link to that as well. If that's how you're feeling. The name of that video is called You Are Not Alone. Recovery concept. But outside of that, loneliness is really more about just missing the company of another person, right? Or even sometimes a pet can help you with that in the short term, but usually it's about missing human contact, human connection. So again, of course, there's prayer, there's connecting with nature and things like that, and ways of connecting. But really, loneliness usually is about missing connecting with human beings. So that's pretty simple, right? Pick up the phone and call someone. Keep calling people till you get them, till you get someone on the phone. Leave messages if you don't get someone, so that maybe later on you'll start hearing back from people. And in the meantime, you're taking action, which helps kind of break up that process too, of feeling so stuck. And of course, if you are in a 12-step program, you can go to a meeting, you can go meet someone. If you're another type of support group, you can seek that out. And when all else fails, you can't get a hold of anyone in the instance, in the moment. It's good to at least get out of whatever element you're in, right? So if you're feeling really lonely and you're at home and you're alone, well, go out into public somewhere. If it's nice out, go take a walk in a park where there's other people around, or you could always go sit in a coffee shop or a bookstore or a cafe, just to be around other people. It may make you feel a little less lonely in the short term. It definitely gets you out of isolation. And And that can help until you are able to connect with someone directly. So that's the loneliness piece. That's the L in Halt. And finally, the T is tired. Are you tired? Again, seems really simple, right? If you're tired, well, if it's at night, you go to sleep, right? You're feeling off, go to sleep. You'll wake up feeling different, chances are. Um, if you are tired, it's the middle of the day, if you can, get some rest, take a nap. If you can't, can you take a 10-minute break even? Maybe you're at work. Can you go out to your car? Can you take a walk and go somewhere where even if you just take a few minutes to rest, to maybe mindfully breathe, meditate. If you can meditate, try meditating. 10 minutes of meditation can really rejuvenate you if you're feeling tired. And the other thing about the T in Halt is that, again, make sure that you went through the H.A.L. first, right? If you took care of the hunger, you might be tired based on your blood sugar levels again. And so if you keep getting tired and you haven't addressed this, taken some of those blood sugar balancing tips that I laid out before, I strongly recommend that, because one of the things that balancing your blood sugar will do, you're more likely to sleep better. You'll have better energy during the day. You're going to be less tired, less fatigued. So that's what I'd suggest about that. And also, of course, if you have insomnia, if you're in early recovery, anywhere from like the first couple weeks to the first couple of years, believe it or not, you could still be feeling the effects of PAWS, another acronym. It stands for post-acute withdrawal syndrome. And that's basically where your system is still recuperating from the effects of your addiction in recovery. And so you can still be feeling different types of physical symptoms and some issues related to that. And one of those things can be that you don't sleep well. So, but that being said, also one of the first things I'll ask people if they're having trouble sleeping is, do you use caffeine? Are you drinking, coffee, tea, soda? And if you are you doing it late in the day? And more times than not, that's the most simple thing to rule out and to cut back on and replace that caffeine with something healthy, an herbal tea, water, later in the day. So I think that about covers it. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Such a simple thing, but I just expanded it to a longer discussion because I really think it's a recovery concept worth really considering and getting familiar with, so that you can take advantage of these really simple tips, but they can have a profound effect on you. Okay, so balance your blood sugar, get some rest. Also, don't forget exercise too. That's one thing I didn't mention with anger. In the moment, sometimes the anger builds, and you might even feel like that you need a physical release, and that's where it would be helpful to do something physical. People talk about punching a pillow. You could do push-ups, but even just taking a brisk walk and just getting some movement in can help diffuse some of the energy that builds up with anger, and that's a safe way to deal with it as well. And when you're exercising, you're more likely to sleep better. And then when you sleep better, you're less likely to be tired during the day. So I'll see how all these things kind of feed into one another in terms of healthy habits to start building a healthier lifestyle for yourself, where you're less likely to crave things that are bad for you, and where you're less likely to feel uncomfortable, and you're more likely to feel more calm, more focused, and more balanced in general. So hope you found that helpful. Please feel free to contribute to the discussion by using the comment section below. Do me a favor and click the like and give it a thumbs up if you found this video helpful at all, and share it, subscribe if you haven't, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.